Hey there, this is luckyDminor with Player Chess Free for All. Now really trying to get to the 2300. Um, so let's see how today's game went. I have strong opponents. Side players are stronger than my opposite uh, and myself. So let's see. Okay. Blue is pushing, so there's a player 2353, and he's pushing a pawn like I'm sometimes doing. I'm wondering. Okay, I just double up my queen and knight in order to be able to get the queen and bishop in order to be able to get the queen out. Also, a nice attack in my point of view is if yellow would push the pawn, yellow could check here and I could mate with my queen. Blue is still pushing the pawn and yellow does it. Yellow opens his bishop. So let's see. We cannot act now. We have to wait for yellow. So I just complete my pawn structure here. And let's see. Blue doesn't do something. So yellow could trade bishops. Yellow could, of course, do nothing or something else. Or yellow could check. That would be the thing I would like to see here. Of course, yellow would like just give a mate to me, and he would earn no points for that. But still, we would get rid of the strongest player on the board, and we would together have a good chance to win this game, either he or me. And he does it. Wow. Okay. Green has seen it, and he knows I want to mate. I will not take that bishop. So he has a free pawn there, and then also possibly a rook. But yes, that's worth it. So fast mate against the strongest player. I'm surprised. And well, maybe the strategy pushing the pawn against strong players is not the best strategy, even though I follow it sometimes. But I tend to do it against weaker players usually. Okay, yellow moves back. Green takes my rook, and I bring my queen back home. So fast beginning. We are only 3 players left. Yellow and red are equally strong. Well, no, not anymore because I lost my pawn and rook. Green is the material leader. I'm the point leader. So now I want to avoid that yellow and red are fighting about who queens first here, because that oftentimes brings the opposite players fighting and blocking and stop teaming with each other. I want to keep a little teaming with yellow so that we can weaken green. So let's see. So yellow prepares his pawn structure, is not aggressively pushing. Green is opening an attack towards yellow, so that's good sign for me. And I'm capturing the bishop here. Bishop cannot come out. Can of course take the pawn, but I will retake then. So I signal to yellow, well, we can fight together against green, and also, of course, I'm trying to just win that bishop here. Oh, what is yellow doing? Oh, he trades with green. Another sign that yellow is willing to team up with me. If you're not in a team game, trading is stupid. But if you're teaming, trading is reasonable. So in this case, he just trades his bishop. Honestly, I would have possibly not done it against a knight in this case. but he does it. And also, of course, he creates a not so easy pawn structure for green, and also opens the king a little more. So it makes sense in a team idea here. Okay, I also attack green. The rook is undefended. And yellow immediately attacks that undefended pawn with a check. So green has to make a decision. Do I bring my rook to safety? Or do I want to protect that pawn and bring my king to safety? Okay. So maybe I would have done that. So brought the rook to safety, and if then the queen would take here, he could play the bishop and attack the queen. And there's no big threat that I could do here. Okay. But he protects now. Okay, so I can take the rook. All went well towards my ideas here. Okay, yellow develops. Green, well, possibly is afraid that I might also trade, and then his king would be even more in the open. So I guess that's the reason why he moves his knight. But of course, this knight is also threatening to check my king, and I don't want to have that. So I move my king. Fianchetto with yellow. Okay. So our knights are on the same diagonal. I don't really like that. Oh yeah, and the knight also protects that square for the bishop to escape. So I also bring my bishop back, but also have an eye on that pawn, which is only protected by the queen. Yellow castles. I wouldn't have done it in his place because he basically limits his possibility to move those pawns and get queens later, because that would severely interfere with his king safety. And those pawns cannot so easily promote, since green might stop them. So I would have left the king in the center here so that this pawn can move. Okay, my rook, my knight, not a rook, not a knight, it's a bishop. So the bishop is attacked, moves back, protects the pawn so that my queen can move. And yellow starts pushing in the center. Okay. Green brings his bishop back. I block that diagonal so that the bishop is no danger for my position anymore. Together with the knight, this may always have some difficulties for me, so I rather block it. Okay, yellow doesn't continue to push, but comes out with the queen. Oh yeah, he sees a possible mate here against green. Let's see if green sees it. Yeah, he does. He protects the field. But his king is not very safe there. So there could be ideas. For example, with my queen, of course, there's still a pawn in the way, and that queen checking and mating together. I just move my queen because of that pawn, only a few small steps, so now I'm double attacking that pawn. And yellow continuously attack on green. So since red and yellow are kind of equally strong, well, yellow has a rook and a pawn more, but I have some points more. So we are kind of equally strong. So both of us have a chance to win if we can weaken green severely. So we continue our teaming. Oh yeah, and here's, I believe, maybe a mistake by green. Green shouldn't have taken that one. Well, I'm not sure. Could have protected that pawn a second time. Or moved his queen aside so that I don't take it with an attack on the queen. But of course then the yellow pawn would have also intruded his position here. So I take, rook takes, and queen moves aside. So I could of course trade now the yellow rook, but I would be stupid if I did. So I move away. Okay, and here yellow is setting up a threat against me. Not sure if it's intentional, maybe he just wanted his rook to be defended, but the rook attacks my unprotected knight with a check. So I shall never allow that, because if he does that, then immediately during the check, this bishop would take me and I would be doomed. Okay. So I protect that knight, even if I would have moved the knight. Yeah, I could also have moved the knight. But then that pawn would be hanging and that pawn would get weak. So I rather keep this knight here for protection and protect the knight with the queen, even though it is kind of a backward development here. Okay, yellow continues pushing that pawn. Green pushes a pawn, is possibly not stopping yellow from promotion. I just develop my other knight and continue my development. Okay, interesting. Blue is blocking that pawn. He could just move further on with his pawn 2 steps away from promotion and possibly nobody would have stopped him. Well, of course I can. He blocks green pawn. Yeah, I think it's a smart idea. But not a smart field because of rook and queen on the same diagonal and ready for an attack with the bishop here. So I just continue my development while yellow and green are fighting it out. Yellow is pushing. Green is pushing. He's not taking here and is smart. He's not doing it because he would lose his bishop and that would be too expensive for him. And now I have to decide, do I want to stop that pawn from promotion? With that, of course, I'm signaling yellow that teaming is over. But I'm doing it because if yellow wins a second queen, yellow has already a rook more than myself. Yellow would become too strong, and I don't want to allow that. And yellow has to understand at some point I cannot let him do whatever he wants. Okay. Pulls another pawn for additional chances there. Green develops the rook. And I also push a pawn to like continue my stable position here. I'm very happy with my position. I mean, the knight bothers me a little, and that threat bothers me a little, but besides that, I'm very stable. And also I open up a line for my bishop to attack if possible. Okay, what's yellow doing here? Okay, risky move. I mean, that bishop is pointing there. Here we are kind of in an opposition. So what is he planning to do? He plans to take my knight, and if I take back, he creates a queen. So after I said we're no team anymore, he says we're no team anymore. Logical solution. But he offers possibly a very important item for his king safety. So that may be a problem later for him. Oh, and I didn't see it during the game, and I didn't see it during the review here, that he just hung his bishop. Wow, that of course is a big mistake and brings him into trouble. And I don't have to worry about my knight, and I can just push my king. I connect the queen and the rook. But more importantly, if I move the queen or want to move the queen, the rook protects the knight that is still defended, that is still threatened. And also my king is from that row, so there are no checks coming from the yellow rook anymore. And also the king, of course, protects my weakest pawn in the structure. Okay. Yellow is now threatening to take that pawn and attack the queen. Green has to do something. And now he trades. So maybe even another mistake by yellow, because he kind of forced this trade. And this doesn't really help him. Of course, green could have protected the pawn. As green, I would have done that instead of trading. But people make different decisions, so another trade happening in my favor. So a lot of things in this game are happening, and I have to say I'm lucky. luckyDminor, name says it. So it's not always because of your own good playing. It's sometimes because other players are fighting with each other and you're lucky. Okay. So green moves the pawn, opens the bishop diagonal to attack that knight and possibly the king. I bring my pawn away from where the knight is attacking it and just continue my development here. And also I open up a possible attack line for my queen. Yellow continues to push. Okay, that may have been also the reason why he wanted to trade here. Well, no, could have done this anyway. No, now the queen protects it before the rook didn't protect that pawn. Maybe that was his idea here. Okay. Bishop comes out. Good for me that that pawn is no longer under fire. Now this knight is attacked, but maybe it's also a defensive move to protect that pawn so that he can move his queen. And I make the move that I showed earlier. Have a possible check on green now. Could even be mating. So if queen checks, no, this is the false way. Queen would die, so I would have to check first, and then the yellow queen could mate. So we would finish up green, and then we would be in the end game together. But now I'm kind of at least equally strong. Well, I'm even stronger than yellow. So at this point, I would even give him the mate because I'm pretty sure I can win the end game. Okay, yellow attacks the bishop or just goes on to a promotion on either of these fields. Green protects his king, that's good. And I have to move my queen and now have another line where I can possibly open some attacks. Yellow is moving on. Okay, I'm getting a little concerned because it's hard to stop both of those pawns. And green is a big help in this situation. Attacks the queen. But unfortunately, I cannot strike immediately. So I just move my knight and threaten to take that pawn. That would still leave him that pawn to queen. But I do not want both pawns to become queens over time. Yellow, of course, protects that pawn and also attacks my knight. So now yellow and I get a little more into fighting each other. And green also pushes. Well, since that field is protected twice, no big danger so far that green would be successful with the pawn push. So I move back. I just don't want to trade with yellow now. I do not want to unnecessarily fight with yellow. I still can stop that pawn from becoming a queen. I will not stop that pawn. And there it is. And now yellow seems to be, of course, the strongest and most dangerous player to green here. So queening here kind of helps me to keep green fighting yellow and not myself. Okay, green pushes more pawns. So now I start also to push my pawn. I figure if I'm kind of peaceful with yellow here and he got his queen, maybe he just lets me walk here. He builds another queen and now has 3 queens in the center. And green is doing a smart move, at least for myself. He's attacking a queen. Basically, he's knowing, well, is it really a smart move? Not really. I mean, green can be sure I would possibly take that queen. And all he does is he makes that queen take that rook. And my knight will be unharmed. Oh, that rook is protected. Didn't see it. So really, he attacks the queen. The queen cannot take my knight, so he saves me. Thank you, green. But actually, the queen can just run away. So maybe at this point, green is starting to play for second place. Green knows that if yellow and red continue to team, he will have no chance to get second place, and he will have no chance to win that game. So he tries to be in a team with me and therefore supports my attack here. Maybe he didn't even see that I can take that queen, and he just thought that attacking two queens at the same time will at least kill one of that queens. Of course, he's possibly also losing his rook. So anyway, I can easily take that queen. Of course, now the teaming with yellow is finally completely over. And yellow moves away and has now a double attack on my knight. The rook protects, but he will most likely go away there. He doesn't. He just pushes his pawn, so my knight is still protected. But now I decide I can take that pawn. I do not want to have green get another queen. I kill the yellow queen, so yellow may be a little angry. Now I kill a green pawn that may even support my relationship with yellow again. So it's all tactics here. Yellow moves away. Okay, this becomes a little dangerous. Queen takes, I can take with that queen. I do not have to use that pawn. Queen takes, I can take with the king, but then the queen can check again. So I'm getting a little worried about my king here. And also, of course, yellow gave way for green to take here. But green would otherwise have taken just with the bishop. But also what I see now is that there's a double attack with bishop and queen on the king position of yellows. Of course, the knight is well defended and blocks it all off. But you never know what will be in the future. So I have to care about my king position here. But I figure in the moment, I'm okay with moving that pawn. Oh yeah, yellow swings over, takes that undefended pawn, has possibilities to check green. Green brings his king into safety. I continue to push that pawn, only one step away from another queen. And yellow, well, could not stop me there. There was no field where he could go to stop my pawn. Well, he could have moved here, and no, he wouldn't stop it. I would just move. Okay. And here green decides with this threats and that threat and that threat. Possibly it's time to have a big attack on red here. So he's even sacrificing his rook, he's trading it away for a bishop. Of course I'm retaking, But I can expect next move to be an attack on my queen and my king. And yellow joins the attack. He knows my queen will be under threat. I'm not sure if that was a smart move by yellow here, because of course I can take with my king and I would lose my queen anyway, because after that move I do not have any chance. I can of course trade and take the bishop, and then green would take. So yellow loses the queen. I'm of course also losing a queen, but at least I can take yellow's queen here. And there's another check. And green takes my queen. I just move away, and in this situation there was now a short teaming between green and yellow, but now the green bishop hangs. So of course yellow could continue to team with yellow. He could, well, he cannot block that field because he would be under attack. He could just move there, and then two items would eye that field, so stop me from promoting. But he takes. I'm very happy about that. Green moves over and threatens that pawn. But also I have to watch out. That could still be mating scenarios or something. So if yellow would move first here and then green would move here, I would still have a field to go. And then the queens would possibly take each other. Okay, so I figured I can queen. And yellow moves back for safety. I'm happy about that. And green starts to push a pawn. Well, he maybe continues to weaken his king safety there. But what shall he do? This check was possible even without the pawn move. Okay, here I would hope that yellow would play with his queen, and while the king moves aside wherever, yellow would win the green queen. But possibly at this point yellow saw that green is not the strongest opponent, but I am. So he doesn't want to attack green at this situation, but rather attacks me. Green blocks with his pawn, but again opens up possibilities for check. But of course this field was eyed by the queen, so I couldn't do that. And I just moved back and have an eye on that pawn. Also see some possibilities to move over here if there's a mating idea. Okay. Not sure what the knight plans, possibly kind of a fork at the queen and this pawn. Maybe he also just wants it back for king safety. Okay. And this is again attacking me. So I step aside. I'm very happy that my items are kind of all protected. Well, this one is, well, it is protected. The only unprotected items are those two, but they are possibly still strong. Oh yes, and yellow goes for safety. And green also protects the king against threats. So nobody wants to lose it here. I move forward, possibly at some point to queen, or possibly to go here and have more protection on my bishop and to have more protection for my king. Okay, and I made a mistake. So with moving that pawn, I left this pawn undefended. Stupid me, never secure against stupid mistakes. And this may become, of course, dangerous, because now the knight is threatening checks. Of course, this field is protected, but whenever yellow attacks, for example, my knight, my queen, green can support it with checks so that my queen is weak. So I'm trying to push that knight away as soon as possible. But of course, my queen is in the open. Well, it is protected by the rook now, but it's very much in the open. Yellow does not attack it. Well, of course, if he attacked with the queen, green could fall in his back and let me take his queen. Green checks me. Okay. Well, I can take it, but the queen could take back and threaten to take that one and be behind my king's back. So I have to think now. I'm very afraid that continuous checking of my king will at some point lead to me losing my queen. So do I have places? Well, I can go there where the knight cannot check me anymore. And the queen doesn't have any fields to check me also. And that queen has no fields to check me. So it's kind of a safe spot here for the moment. Also now I'm attacking that knight 2 times, and in the next move I could take it away. But the queen comes and additionally protects it. Okay, so let's see what green does. Okay, he moves and saves his knight, but threatens again checks on my queen, on my king. Also now, well, there's no mate. This would not be a mate. I can still go there or there. And the same would be true if yellow would move there. Okay. So I move up. I want to, well, bring my king somehow more into safety. But again, of course, the knight can check. Okay. I believe if yellow had more trust with green at this point, could have possibly played more aggressive. Because green is checking, but yellow doesn't have a good aim there. So I decide at this point to sack my rook if needed, because I wanted to get out of this continuous checking dangerous. And in that moment, two queens even neutralize themselves, so maybe even no queen takes. But yellow, of course, moves away and leaves my rook undefended, and green would most possibly take here now. Okay, but that's kind of still better for me than having this knight bother me the whole time. And here, of course, green overlooked, and I don't know if yellow saw it, my possibility to kill green. I just move away with my pawn, and since yellow is the next one to move, yellow can just take. So the big question is, should he do it? So I have a queen, a bishop, and a knight, and he has a queen, a rook, and two knights. We have, well, he even has a pawn more than I do. So if he takes, he would win 20 points. We would be kind of equal in points, and he would have most material. So it's smart from him to take. And he does. So now he has a chance to win, but of course I still have chances because I'm not too weak here. And I immediately start to push a pawn and try to get another queen. Okay, he tries to attack from behind and maybe even stop that pawn over there. I have a very nice move. I block that line with my knight, I protect my knight, I further protect my king. And I'm kind of very happy about this position where like everything protects each other here around the king. But of course my king is very much more in the open than his king. He has a much better king safety. So that's my big weakness here. Okay, he stops my pawn from pushing from the other side. And here I'm offering a queen trade. I do have less material, but of course if he takes and I take, well, he can easily stop my pawn there from promotion. Yes, since it's protected by my bishop, he would lose his knight possibly. Also, of course, he's losing 9 points. I'm only losing 1 point, but that's not a big deal in the moment. So I think he should possibly, I don't know. Maybe you write in the comments what you would have done. Would you have traded the queens or not? He decided to do it not. And maybe that's smart. But of course I can move on with my pawn, and he's under pressure with that. He has a pawn too that can move, so he does. But I'm faster than he is. Okay. So I again offer trades of queens, but now I would immediately get another queen if he did. So maybe that's a mistake he's doing. So he leaves his queen there for me to take it. Just protects it with the knight. But of course, after I take that queen, he has to retake, and then I can queen, and he can then move, but I have still time to stop him from getting a queen. So I take that queen, he retakes, I get a queen, he moves. And of course I have a field where I can protect both that and that field and stop him from promotion. He brings his knight into safety and tries to get that field free for promotion. But I find a place where I can attack the knight, the pawn, and that field at the same time. Of course, he still promotes, but I do not take the queen, but the knight. This way I won the knight and didn't lose my queen. So now it's queen, bishop, and knight with 3 pawns against queen, rook, and knight against 4 pawns. Still, he's the leader. So maybe I could have done something better here. But I didn't find a way to really, well, possibly. Let's move back. So he moves there. I could have just moved there and again protected that field. I think that would have been the better solution. Okay, but anyway, it happens like it happens. So my king gets attacked. I can protect with my knight. And he's moving back with his knight. Why is he doing that? I mean, I wouldn't sack my queen for that knight. Oh, possibly because he wants to push that pawn. Okay. I attack that pawn. Also, of course, a rook behind that, but that's protected by the king. And he pushes that pawn. That was the reason. I start to push another pawn. And I always like it when I, like with that move, can protect my pawns that I want to push from the front, because then the rook can never come over to attack that pawn because I'm already here. So pawns are pushing. What is queen planning? Well, possibly to give another check. Otherwise the queen would just block that pawn from moving. Well, of course it protects that field so that it can pass my queen. I continue, he continues, I continue to get a second queen. So I'm not sure whether here that queen move would have been better. I would just walk away. He could check again. I could block. So maybe he wouldn't have stopped me, and of course he would have lost that pawn, and he doesn't want to lose that pawn. Okay, so I get a second queen, and I still have to stop him from getting a second queen. So I try to double attack that pawn while it cannot move. Yellow double protects it. I triple attack it. And yellow seeks his success in checking. I can block, and he has a second queen. So now it's 2 queens, a rook, and a knight against 2 queens, a bishop, and a knight. And still my king safety is weak, so yellow should win here. I can attack the queen, so of course a knight is always a dangerous item against queens, especially 2 queens. There's always chances for forks. I get checked, and I offer a trade here. I'm afraid that 2 queens will make me easily. If he can avoid me taking his queens, and of course in this situation, while that queen is attacked, Well, if he would take, I can only take back one queen. But I was very scared that if I do not trade away one of the queens, they would just mate me in the open. So, queen trades, attacks my knight, knight moves back. Okay, not sure what he wants to do there. I again protect my knight and threaten to take that rook, but rook is protected. Check, move away, check, move away, check, move away, check, move away. So I'm kind of doing a slalom around my items there. And there seems to be no way where he can just drive me out of there. And since I have more points than yellow has, if we would just move around and yellow would not mate me, at some point it would be my win. Still, I move on with my pawns. I have the idea of course, building pressure by threatening to create another queen. But I open up myself for more checks, but I have items that can move in between. More checks, moving away, more checks, moving in between. So somehow this structure is kind of perfect. Everything supports each other, and I can block a check from every side. Well, in this moment, not from that side, but I can move away. And at this point, he just timed out. So I'm quite sure I could have played here kind of forever, and he wouldn't find a way to mate me. He wouldn't want to, well, possibly if he just moved his queen over and started to push that pawn, I would get under pressure, because there would still be no real way I could threaten his queen. But he was in time trouble also, another lucky reason for me to win here. So yes, I won, and yes, I got shortly over 2,300, and I checked, and this is now rank 109 in free for all. So I'm approaching to be top 100. I'm very happy about that. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day, and see how it will continue.